Hey everyone, welcome to Parrotlets in the Garden. Jake here, and today we are going to be doing a video about a parrot cookbook, parrot recipe cookbook. And for today's recipe that we're going to be trying out, it incorporates ingredients straight from our garden here. So I just harvested some fresh kale, fresh oregano, and some nasturtiums, which are an edible flower, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just wanted to give you a view of the garden, and our birds will be shortly having a nice meal using fresh ingredients. So let's go inside in the kitchen and get started. Okay everyone, so today we're going to be using a recipe from this cookbook. It's called A Parrot's Fine Cuisine Cookbook and Nutritional Guide. And it's written by several authors, including some avian veterinarians. And also, some of you may recognize an article by Marlene Mc'Cohen, who is a YouTuber. And so I'm pretty happy with this cookbook so far. It has some really great recipes, stuff, just combinations of parrot-safe foods that you might not think to combine together in the way that is suggested in the book. Also has some really great articles just about parrot nutrition and just the huge importance of feeding your bird correctly, and also gives some information just about the specific nutritional value of certain foods. And so we today are going to do kind of maybe a modified version of one of the recipes in the cookbook, the chunky chop. And so it's not exactly following the recipe 100%, but it's pretty close, just with some minor modifications. So here is all of our ingredients, and as I talked about earlier, the nasturtiums and the kale and the oregano are actually right from our garden, so it's really super fresh. And the rest of the ingredients are from the store, and I always try to buy organic for myself and my birds when I can, when it's available. So actually all of these items here today are organic. And so the recipe is the chunky chop, and it's basically combining vegetables together and some grains and nuts. And it's supposed to, unlike a fine mash, it's supposed to be chunky. And so another thing aspect of this cookbook is you have to kind of gear each recipe for the size of your bird. And so while this might not be chunky for macaw, for parrotlet it definitely would be considered chunky. So usually when I feed my birds chop, it's very finely either very finely chopped fruits and vegetables, or use a food processor. So this is definitely a coarser chop than what they're used to, but if you have a larger bird, you're probably going to want to go even coarser than this. And of course a parrotlet can you can feed your parrotlet vegetables that are even coarser than this, but I feel like it gets to the point where it's more of a foraging activity then versus a regular meal. If you give your parrotlet a huge squash to munch on, they're obviously going to get some value from that, but it's not going to be the same as feeding a meal. So it's going to be more like a foraging activity for them. So here, what we have some spinach and kale, and this is some fresh oregano, and then we have some sugar snap peas, yellow squash. And then this is sweet potato that's lightly steamed, some carrots, orange bell pepper, nasturtiums and chamomile flowers, which are both edible for parrots and humans as well. This is some coconut flakes. And then here I have a soaking concoction of pecans, almonds, sunflower seeds, black quinoa, and millet. And I think I got all the items there. So this is going to be a really nutritious dinner for our birds. You know, a lot of these ingredients are really high in antioxidants, especially the kale, you know, the spinach, really high in antioxidants. We've got our beta carotene, vitamin A covered here, which is a vitamin that's really important for a parrot's health. A lot of parrots can easily become deficient in vitamin A, so these are really important for that. The fresh oregano has some antifungal and antibacterial properties. The fresh peas are really high in protein, and then we have also the pumpkin seeds, which are also high in various antioxidants and healthy fats, as well as, you know, the almonds again. Healthy fats, protein, pecans, protein, and then the black quinoa also is high in protein for a grain. And as you know, parrots love millet, especially small parrots like parrotlets. The chamomile is very calming, has a calming herb for birds, and as you know, humans also drink it in form of tea for its calming effects. And you can actually also serve it to your bird in a tea version. Just make sure that the tea is cooled. It doesn't have to be cold, but it does have to be, you know, closer to lukewarm. Much cooler temperature than we would serve tea for ourselves. And then the nasturtiums are also, you know, have some various, you know, micronutrients that are good for our birds. It also just makes for a more interesting presentation, and, you know, kind of piques the parrot's interest, so that they can not get bored with their food, which can sometimes happen. So it's really good to kind of mix it up in terms of not only what you're feeding your bird, but also how you're feeding them, because they can, you know, get bored just like we would. You know, eating the same thing chopped up in the same way every day can get boring. So in order to encourage your bird to eat their vegetables, it's important to you know, work on the presentation and mix things up a little bit. So I got two bowls here, which should cover them. Chip and Bijou can share one bowl, and then Delphi gets her bowl, and they'll probably all three of them end up sharing all the bowls. So we're going to start just mixing some of these ingredients here. So put a little bit of bed of the kale and the spinach on the bottom, and then we're going to go with some of the bell pepper. Carrots, and the steamed squash, or sweet potato rather. This is not something that they have often, and in the past when I've given them squash, they definitely enjoy it, but they haven't had it recently, so it'll be interesting to see how they react to the sweet potato. And then I'm going to do some of this yellow squash here. This yellow squash is actually, I tried some and it is very sweet, a lot sweeter than squash usually is, so it definitely means that it's very ripe, and I think that the birds will definitely enjoy that. So we got a little bit of oregano we're going to top it off here with. And oregano is also good for helping keep your chop for your birds fresh. You know, depending on how long you have your food out for, it can sometimes grow unhealthy bacteria, which we don't want our birds to have. So things like oregano can help kind of at least slow down and inhibit some of that bacterial growth. Okay, so now we're going to take our sprouted, or not sprouted, but soaked grains and seeds and nuts here. Some of these items actually can be sprouted, but right now we just soak them, and the soaking actually makes them a bit more digestible for the birds. If I were to sprout, then that would kind of make it even more nutritious, and we can talk about that in another video. But this is just going to make it a bit softer and more easily digestible, and probably easier for them to just eat. in general. So we're going to get a spoon here. And make sure all that water is drained out. Okay, so now mix this around here. Next time I do this recipe, I might actually chop the almonds and the pumpkin seeds a little bit finer than they are right now, but this is kind of, you know, an experiment to see how they react to different things. So we'll see how they do with the large pieces. Okay, so there's that. And now we're going to take our shredded coconut and sprinkle some of the coconut on top. Coconut's also something they have never had before, so it'll be interesting to see their reaction. Okay, so next is the chamomile. So the chamomile, so it's pretty much the flower part that's edible. So we're going to want to remove this top part from the stem and kind of just pop them in there. Kind of like a little garnish. And then the nasturtium is actually, the whole part of it is edible, so you can just put some in here like that. And that's that. So this is again, the chunky chop from a Parrot's Fine Cuisine Cookbook and Nutritional Guide. And I would say that these are some really nice, beautiful bowls of chop that our birds are going to enjoy in just a second.